Welcome to an episode of Podcast with JP, where we will discuss educational inequality. I'm your host, Justin Berjadi. Today we will discuss a serious topic, which is the inequality of education among teenagers across the world. This is a problem that affects millions of students worldwide, and it's essential for us to understand more about the factors that are affecting this problem so that we can give a balanced education to all students in the future. Joining me today is our guest, Raymond Rehan Wibisana. Welcome to Podcast with JP.
Thanks for inviting me. Grateful to be here.
To start things up, let's begin by defining what educational inequality is. So Raymond, can you please share an overview of educational inequality?
Of course. So, educational inequality is the imbalanced distribution of educational resources and opportunities that occur between groups of students, which may include school funds, experienced teachers, books, and access to technology. This inequality may depend on factors such as economic status, race, corruption, and many more. This shows that not all teenagers can get the correct amount of education, and this inequality may have a lot of consequences for the future.
I see. Well, let's look more closely at some of the important elements that contribute to educational inequality. Disparities in school funding are one that frequently comes up. Could you clarify how this is relevant?
Certainly. School funding is one of the key factors that play a role in educational inequality. Schools in numerous places are subsidized by property taxes, which implies that schools in wealthy areas have more resources and better facilities than those in economically disadvantaged areas. This can result in a continuous cycle of struggle where schools in impoverished areas are not able to provide necessary education for students. This is due to the lack of resources, which eventually leads to worse outcomes for the students in those communities.
Indeed, it is a vicious cycle. Another aspect is the level of income inequality, which is becoming more and more apparent throughout the years. How does this impact students and learners?
Income level plays an important role regarding educational inequality. It is a significant determinant of students' access to high levels of education and their educational outcomes. There are a few factors that impact educational inequality. One is the access to educational resources, as higher income families have greater access to financial resources to be able to invest in education for their children, via private tutoring, enrichment programs, and many more. This can lead to educational advantages due to their access to additional resources. Other than that, the quality of schools also play a role in this. Usually, property taxes are affiliated with school fundings. As a result, schools in wealthier areas receive more funding than others. So, these schools are able to provide their students with higher quality educational resources, while lower income students are more likely to attend underfunded schools, which will hinder their ability to learn.
It certainly is an issue. I also heard that another factor may be caused by ghost teachers.
Exactly. So, essentially, ghost teachers are teachers who exist only on payrolls but never even existed. They receive a salary for basically doing nothing. Ghost teachers represent a serious concern of corruption and fraud within the education system.
So how does this affect the education system that has been embedded in students nowadays?
They can affect the quality of education provided by schools. Ghost teachers can significantly affect the students' guidance, teachings, supports, etc. Moreover, it also affects the budget or cost allocation that has been set by schools. On the other hand, ghost teachers lead to inequality of education, as students receive less information about education when their teachers are absent.
Moving on, let's talk about the consequences of education inequality. What impact does it have on society?
It has many consequences. It can limit individuals' future opportunities and may hinder the performance of students academically. Since lower income students need to achieve more academically, without the necessary tools for success, it's going to be harder for them to achieve more in life.
Other than that, what other consequences may be related to this?
Based on a social level, it may hinder students' education outcomes based on factors such as race and social ethics. This may lead to stratified education attained among students.
This may lead us to our global perspective where we discuss the effects globally. So Raymond, do you know any regions that may be affected by education inequality?
Well, educational inequality may be different depending on the countries or regions. As we know, developing countries have a higher rate of educational inequality than developed countries.
Oh really? Can you explain more about that?
Based on the research that I've done, Only 1% of children of primary school age are out of school in Europe and North America, while their share amounts to 7% in Southern Asia and to 18% in Sub-Saharan Africa. Gender disparity has plummeted over the last few decades in our school rates on a global scale. The gender difference in our school rates is the highest in Sub-Saharan Africa, with 23% of girls and 19% of boys. In Oceania, it's 14% of girls and 9% of boys. And Western Asia, 14% of girls and 8% of boys. While it is lowest in Eastern Asia, it's 3% for both genders. Moreover, countries with larger segments of population that have less access to education may struggle to compete in the global market, which may lead to global economic imbalances or inequalities. Other than this, the recent COVID-19 pandemic has deepened many global inequalities of education. The economic crisis resulting from the pandemic has hit countries from all around the world. Governments in less developed countries have less access to support programs than more developed countries. Due to this, it can hold a strong negative impact on the education of families that are previously poor. It can severely damage the children's ability to learn due to problems that are related to financial situations.
That's a crucial point to consider, especially in the context of economic situation that is occurring right now. Now let's switch things up and talk about the locals' perspective, shall we? After discussing this problem in other countries, I suppose we discuss the problem in our country too, Indonesia.
Yes, indeed. Indonesia is far from perfect when it comes to equality of education.
Oh really? Can you explain more about that?
As we know, Indonesia is a vast country that consists of rural and urban areas. This may be proven by the number of teachers between villages and cities. There are more teachers in schools than in cities and villages. This may be due to a lack of access to transportation as well as bad school infrastructure in villages or rural areas. This makes rural areas have less experienced teachers, which has an effect on the quality of education of village students. Other than that, we can see that schools in urban areas have better school facilities, such as access to technology, and more experienced teachers, which in turn makes students in cities more knowledgeable.
Yes, I heard that traveling to school is harder in rural areas, which makes getting an education more challenging.
It's true. For instance, students in SD Negeri Cicaringin 3 in the Banten province need to pass through the Silemaun River using a steel wire in order for them to go home from school. The government's slow pace in building infrastructure means that they have to walk 6 kilometers back and forth to reach school and risk falling into the river. This in contrast to education in urban areas, where access to schools is very easy due to access to transportation that makes it easier for teenagers who attend school to reach their destination in a short amount of time. This shows that education access may be less in rural areas than in urban areas.
Yes, I heard that the Ministry of Education of Indonesia put all its efforts into trying to overcome this problem. Well, the government's task here is not easy, starting from renovating schools that are no longer suitable for use in rural areas, as well as building rooms that support learning activities such as laboratories and libraries in rural areas. This brings us to the solutions to education inequality.
So, one of the solutions is to increase the amount of teachers. These teachers are the ones who are responsible for the knowledge of our teenagers. This makes teacher a main factor in ensuring equality in getting education. Therefore, governments should help fund experienced teachers and spread them into areas all equally in order for every student to receive equal education.
I agree. So for other solutions, we want you to give at least one proper solution in countering education inequality by putting your answer in the pre-post test. By giving your opinion, you will help raise awareness which contributes in more ways so education equality will be spread equally among students, giving students a brighter future. Anyways, thank you Raymond for sharing your insights on this topic. That concludes today's episode, The Inequality of Education Among Teenagers Across the World. I hope you found today's discussion about education inequality to be informative. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to ask me more in detail on my social media page. See you next time!